Okay, I'm here with Ben Moberg. We're at East Street MX. Ben has a lot of education. He has a master's in
exercise physiology.
Physiology. So he knows a lot about riding on the bike. He raced professional. He's a vet professional, still professional like I am. And he knows a lot about exercise, training on and off the bike. So we were talking this week and we got into a conversation about training. And I'd been in a Peloton battle with my buddy on the Peloton, and then we started talking, and I knew it was the wrong thing to do because training growing up, my biggest problem was my endurance. I had no endurance when I raced, and so I would go home, I would train harder, exhaust myself. Next weekend was worse, and then when I get injured, I would take 3 months off of riding without any training, come back, and I would have my best race ever. And then I would start, okay, I'm gonna start training again, thinking things would get better, and I would train myself into the ground and just repeat the cycle over and over and over again. So Ben's here, he's gonna talk about the proper way to train, which I didn't really learn until I was in my 30s, and I'm not in the shape I was when I was a kid, but I know how to train properly now, and as does Ben, so he's gonna talk about what you should do as a training for motocross.
Yeah, and that's an excellent segue to get in here. And Billy's story is so common among guys that are experts or pros. I definitely fell into that category, and it's other guys that did the same thing. We would train so hard off the bike because the common idea was that if you train harder than your competition, when race time comes, you're going to be the guy that's lasting for your 20 or 30 minute moto. But it couldn't be farther from the truth, and it's the exact opposite. And the interesting thing is I didn't realize the right way to train until I quit motocross, got into cycling, learned how to train correctly, and then went back to school and got my education. And through that, you realize how the body actually repairs itself and what's good training and what's bad training. Now, we've all heard people use the phrase, I'm going to train smarter, not harder, but what the hell does that actually mean? Well, for one thing in sports is something we call sports specificity. So if I want to become a good baseball player, I got to practice baseball. I'm not going to go out and swim laps in a pool. Is it possible that swimming laps in the pool could benefit you as a baseball player? Marginally, maybe a little bit. So for us moto guys, there's nothing more important to training than actually riding the bike. So if you're doing what we were doing, where you're going out and you're blasting yourself on a bicycle for 45 minutes, all you're doing is wearing yourself out so that when you get on the bike, you were exhausted. And now your quality training and the training that matters the most has been compromised. So it might come as a surprise to some people, even though I was a cyclist and I'm an exercise physiologist, that I don't advocate very high intensity training off the bike. The only time I would recommend that is if you have a week where you can't ride or if you're coming back from an injury, but that has to be treated cautiously. If you do too much of anaerobic work, all it does is break your body down and you get no benefits from it. Billy, you had brought up a really good point before. What is a good zone to stay in and what is a good duration to stay in? So we talked a little bit about Phil Maffetone and his equation, and you can tell the guys what his equation is for the best heart rate to train in.
Yeah, so I like listening to podcasts and stuff that's out there. And Phil Maffetone, he came up with a thing called a MAF method, MAF. And basically what it is you stay in that 75% heart rate zone. So you take your age, subtract it from 180. So for me, I'm 37 years old, I'd be 143 beats per minute. That would be my ceiling I want to train at. If I get over that, I'm training in the wrong zone. I'm anaerobic, I'm using glycogen, I'm not burning fat. You want to stay in that fat burning zone. And what that does is, like, think of a pyramid, right? They talk about building your base, right? The base of the pyramid. You're always working at the tip of a pyramid, and you're trying to improve the tip of the pyramid all the time. There's nothing to build off of. You can only build so much bigger. But if you're making the base of the pyramid bigger and bigger and bigger, you you can take up the whole earth, right? So the most important thing is working on your base and not the tip. The tip should be your riding. The top of the pyramid should be your riding. The base of it should be your cardio, your endurance, and you need to build your endurance base. And then you were talking about how that kind of training, when you're in the fat burning zone, that builds capillaries, which could help for potentially arm pump.
Exactly. Better blood flow, better mitochondrial density and efficiency. So you're using your glycogen and fat in a more efficient manner. So, as Billy was pointing out, if you go above that 70 to 75% of your maximum heart rate, if you're training above that zone, you're going to be burning a lot more carbohydrates and a lot less fat. We want to train our bodies to burn a little bit of fat and carbohydrates at the same time, and that's what's so unique about that 70% to 75% of your maximum heart rate, because it puts you in that sweet spot where you're burning a little bit of both. At the same time, you're getting the biggest bang for your buck in terms of physiological adaptation. So obviously, if you're going out there and you guys prefer to run or cycle, a lot of those adaptations are going to happen in your legs, which that's important for motocross. We control the bikes with our legs. But again, we're not trying to be cyclists and we're not trying to be runners. We need to be good dirt bike athletes. So that stuff is fine to build, I'd say, the most basic aspects of your physiology. Cardiovascular adaptations, such as increasing the size of your blood ventricles so you can pump more blood. And as Billy mentioned, we're building capillary density to get more blood flowing to those working muscles and bringing them nutrients. At the same time, we're bringing out a lot of metabolic byproducts that just build up and make you tired. So it's really important to know those zones to train in. And again, if you're constantly trying to push the envelope on the bike and off the bike, what will end up happening is your testosterone will actually go down a little bit while your cortisol is going up, and you'll be in a constant catabolic state rather than an anabolic state. So all you're doing is breaking yourself down while you're working hard. There's nothing more frustrating. And usually what ends up happening, and Billy, you can share your thoughts if this happened to you, you'll work your butt off, you show up to the racetrack, you get your ass kicked, and then what do? You double down on what you were doing before. You just work out even harder and put in even more laps, which is the exact opposite of what you should be doing. So very important point.
Yeah, when I was younger, I would do exactly that. I would get pissed off at the kid or the guy that I was racing with that I knew didn't train at all. And in reality, he was better off. I was actually doing myself, I wasn't doing myself a favor. I was making it worse for me. So, the thing is, train smarter, not harder. And then duration, we talked about duration earlier. But
yeah, I feel 30-35 minutes is plenty. You know, and you're doing it right at that 70-75% zone. And the nice thing about that is it's a comfortable work output. And what it will actually do is it will strengthen your parasympathetic nervous system, so it'll actually have a nice calming, soothing effect. When we're out here, I mean, our adrenal glands are pushed to the max. Me and Billy just did a 25-minute moto at race pace. I'm exhausted. And the last thing I would want to do is wake up tomorrow and get on a bicycle or go for a run and be trying to push myself into an anaerobic zone. I mean, it'd be so counterproductive. So, you know, treat your body right and you'll see results.
Yeah, take it from me. I made that mistake, and if I knew then what I knew now, I think things would be a little different, but that's part of life, right? You learn. So, and we didn't have the outlets that we have now, like, you know, YouTube and internet and social media, right? So all this stuff is available. So train smarter, not harder. Don't make the mistake that mostly all of us did in the 90s and the 2000s, where we saw Ricky Carmichael getting all fit, you know, and so we're like, all right, let's go watch Rocky get pumped up, and we're gonna go run up a flight of stairs for 2 hours. It's not what you want to do. Just spin, work on your aerobic base, stay in the aerobic zone, keep that heart rate low, save the high heart rate for when you ride the bike.
Yeah.